Oh my gosh, gang. Bogner Snorkler 50. You're probably saying, like, what a crazy name. Well, the Snorkler and the name have been around for like 30 to 40 years. And let me explain why. Now, this is 30 to 40-year-old recollections here. So if a detail is wrong, please be forgiving. So Reinhold came from Germany, where he was doing amp mods, and he flew across the Atlantic with a 50-watt Marshall that he had modded with his mod. He goes to Andy Brower, who was the LA rental guy. All of the studio cats were renting stuff from him. Reinhold shows Andy his mod, and Andy's like, great, you could work here and do mods and whatever. So, great, right? Andy goes, let's go visit Eddie Van Halen. So they hop in the car and they bring this amp over to Eddie Van Halen's place. Eddie apparently really likes it. It's like, cool, I want to buy it. How much would this cost? How much would you charge? Well, Reinhold charged and a guitar from Eddie Van Halen. You know, Eddie Van Halen he build guitars. He's like, cool, here you go. It was, I think, made out to Andy because Reinhold didn't have a checking account. He just got here, right? And turns out, I was like, where is this guitar? Well, he didn't love the guitar. You know, he's got different size hands. Reinhold's a big dude. And he's like, I didn't really like it. So, guitar's gone. The guitar's gone. Anyway, moving forward, it was a great mod, right? And in this mod, it's like a lot of the Marshall mods are tweaks on the Marshall side. This pretty much wiped out the entire preamp and did an entirely new preamp in the Marshall casing. And it was designed to sound great at low volumes too, because Reinhold was saying that in Germany at the time, like, people weren't cranking 100-watt Marshalls in that way. So when he got here, he was like, wow, people are cranking 100-watt Marshalls, and it sounds awesome. Even so much so, it's like, this has a master volume. The original had a master volume, and it's rumored that Eddie was like, master volume? Like, what's that? Like, why do you need a master volume? Because it just goes, is there a knob? It goes to 10. That's what you do with knobs. I digress. Reinhold creates another mod. It's the same mod, but, a new modified Marshall. And it's bought. This is seemingly by Ron Champagne. He is an engineer that works with Dave Jordan, the amazing producer Dave Jordan, amongst Alice in Chains and Jane's Addiction and many other amazing albums that Dave Jordan has produced. So Ron decorated his modded Marshall and found this logo off of a fire extinguisher called Snorkler and put it on there. So it's the Snorkler. It was just kind of this weird tie-in. But that, there it is. So this original Snorkler was used on the Alice in Chains records and some Jane's Addiction stuff and who knows what else back then. And Ron apparently wouldn't sell it because, it's part of his calling card. He's got this amazing amp. That's a good way to get gigs. But at the time, it was late 80s and the rack craze was going. So, modifying Marshalls was not a big priority. Reinhold wanted to build products, so he built the Giant preamp. Maybe it was called the Triple Giant. I'm not sure what his original ones were called. They have cool, colorful knobs on them. They went to Living Color and Megadeth, which I believe was used on the Rest in Peace album. It sounds like it. I've used one of those old ones, and I was like, this is that Megadeth sound. As well as it went to some studio guys. Then Reinhold built the Bogner Fish preamp, which is like legendary. And I think one of the most beautiful pieces of gear I've ever seen. He had done that Snorkler mod for Jerry Cantrell in the Shark channel. I had heard of it as the Anthrax mod also because Dan Spitz from Anthrax had that with that same mod in there. Reinhold also designed Channel 3 in the Groove Tube Trio preamp. He made a deal with the owner, Aspen, And part of that deal was a royalty and a car, because he needed a car to get around. Reinhold spray stenciled the Bogner fish logo on the car, so I guess the next time he came around to see Aspen might not have been too happy. But as the racks died out, we got the Bogner Ecstasy, and that Ecstasy went crazy and took off and was an iconic amp of that era. And I think the Snorkler just sort of faded away. So now we're getting, many years later, 30 plus years later, a resurrection of the Snorkler head. And that's what this is. The Snorkler 50 watt head, EL34s, one channel, but 2 levels of gain. So you have gain 1, which will get you in that cool AC/DC-ish zone, and then gain 2 stacks on top of that and pushes you into the like awesome hard rock thing. There's a bright switch that opens the top end a little bit, gives you a little more crunch. Feels like maybe it tightens the bottom, but that could just be because it's pushing those crunchy top end frequencies up. And there's a deep switch that changes the frequency of everything. Because if you have the depth all the way off, which it's kind of out of the circuit, flip that switch, everything kind of shifts and it gets a little smoother, maybe. Sometimes you hear it to great effect, sometimes you don't. I'll try and demonstrate that. On the rear of the amp, there's an effects loop and a noise gate. They activate at the same time. So you turn on the effects loop and that noise gate is available to you. You could turn the noise gate all the way off, it's out of the circuit. Another nice thing about that effects loop is that if you don't have any devices plugged into it, then it's sort of a master volume upon the master volume. It gives you a different tone. It's a little smoother overall. But at 50 watts, it's a fairly loud amp, so some of us may want to kind of contain that volume in any way we want possible with the same raging tone. So you have lots of different ways of dialing in the tone. Everything in that opening song was just one setting on the Snorkler. I did switch to the lower gain mode when I went to the clean sound, but everything else was just one go there. For the solo, I rolled the tone knob off of the guitar entirely because it kind of seemed to work in that vibe. But it's like a great hard rock sound. I'm going to take all of that opening sound guitars and just strip it down to one mono guitar so you could hear all of that isolated without drums and bass and stuff going on. I'll put that at the end of this video for you. And if you liked my music, I have a new album out, and I have a rock production course about instrumental rock. If you're into that kind of thing, there's a lot to learn there. So let's plug in some guitars and turn up the volume. It's going through a 412 with a 57 and a Royer 121 on a vintage sturdy speaker. That was the same setup for that opening. And yeah, let's get these ears warmed up, and these fingers warmed up, and see what damage we could do. I've got my Shabbat Lion here. This has a single P90 in there, not noiseless, as you'll notice, and a Gibson scale length. So this is got that nice snarly mid-range and a little bit of noise. So if it squeals, forgive me. Yeah, done, right? You don't even have to turn knobs. It's just got that sound, and it's flippin' awesome. Leaving the extra gain mode here, show ya. Sounds like a job for a noise gate, right? Effects loop's on, it's set about noon. Noise gate's on, set about noon. I was looking for a whammy bar. The noise gate was great at just taking the edge off a little bit, all the in-between noise. And this is a P90. It's going to be probably the noisiest version of something you would plug into this. So I would say even you could run another noise gate in the front and really tighten things up if you like. But it is a nice addition to have handy at all times. Let's swap guitars. It's a subtle thing. I appreciate that. I hate it when there's a bright switch and you're just like, now I have to change every knob. What was the point of having the switch? So that's a really nicely voiced, subtle brightness. Another thing I like about this is that the tone knobs are fairly subtle. It's already a great sounding amp. So I don't worry that I have the treble all the way at 9 o'clock. It's fine. Let's just go crazy here. There. That's a good tone right there. Gain 2 stacks like I mentioned, so we go there. One thing about this amp is when I just let notes hang, it's so natural. It just goes and has this really beautiful sort of purr to it. It's an angry purr, but it's a purr. I'm scared to go all the way. Let's just go all the way. lot of gain. You don't need that much gain. The Snorkler cleans up really well. Check this out. That's with bridge humbucker, so if you leave that, it just gets super clean. Let's check out cleaning up in heavy mode. A little less cleanup when you're in all-out gain blitz, but that's fine because the foot switch will take you to the lower gain mode. Really easy. Let's get a little there, a little less, a little more. That is the Bogner Snorkler 50 from Bogner Amplification. It sounds awesome. It's got, we'll call it 2 channels. It's got 2 channels, effects loop, noise gate, and a whole bunch of awesome tone. What more can you want? I'll put a link below. I'll put a link below to my stuff. I don't think Bogner has a website yet, so look, it is what it is. Reach out to your dealers if you want to ask. I don't know. And as I mentioned before, I've got a new album, I've got a new course, and if you don't want any of that stuff, just, a little thumbs up.